sounds weird, but, and it's not just me, more billionaires than you can imagine. They're not that rare here. And the hedge funders and the people involved in this will always say, I know the name of everybody. I know everybody. Nobody heard of him. What does he do? Who is he? He has one client, Les Wexner, from Victoria's Secret fame. He's connected all of a sudden to science and universities. So before you get to the list, who is he? How does a former prime minister of Israel even become associated with somebody? That's all. Now, throw into this Ghislaine Maxwell, her father. Here, if you have something, Sean, I want you to know something from the bottom of my heart. I have no hate in my mind in my heart for any religion or non-religion or anything along those lines. I am not in any way anti-Semitic or anything, but that's where we're going. 2 examples, if I could. The other night, Tucker Carlson was speaking, and he said, I was, and he mentioned Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is, I think she has I forget the name of her forum or whatever it is. And Tucker said, what's the weirdest thing? If I in any way am not advocating war with Iran, or if I'm not with people who are advocating a war with Iran or attacking Iran, and I'm thinking to myself, why is Tucker Carlson talking like that? Who is promoting or advocating your adherence to the belief that you must advocate a war with Iran? I'm saying, Tucker, say it. You mean Netanyahu? You mean what? Then the other day, Don Bongino, who is the assistant or the assistant director of the FBI, said as follows. He was on the Tim Pool show or something. I don't know when this was, but I could tell from the style. This is Bongino saying. He said, I heard it from somebody, and I'm not going to mention who, but I've heard this idea that Epstein may not have been keeping all of these films or records or whatever it is for his own personal kink. He might be a part of or connected with some, and here we go, Middle Eastern country. And I'm thinking, Syria? Jordan? What are you talking about? So why are you not saying this? What do you mean Middle Eastern? It's Israel. Just say it. There's nothing wrong. I don't understand it. So if we're going to get into this, if we're going to talk about it, you have to ask, who is Epstein? Who is he with? Is it impossible to think that a country with arguably one of the most famous intel agencies in the world would want to have access to the most powerful people on the planet involved in activities that could possibly be used later on for extortion, for their own purposes? The honeypot. We have done this. Every country since Matahari. Anyway, so that's the first thing. Do you really want to know about this? Because if we're going to talk about Middle Eastern countries, then just forget it. Just here's your list. Here's a list. Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew. Okay, here's your list, Sean. There you go. You happy? There's your list. Let's move on. Nobody wants the list. Who is he? What does he want? Where are the records? Everybody who ever went to his home said, he's got cameras everywhere. Why does a person have cameras everywhere? Why do we keep saying, I keep thinking the word list is throwing us off. It's almost like a limited hangout. So if you don't want to find out what it is, if you really don't want to get deep, then don't bring it up. I don't think people really want to get to the bottom of this. I think they're just so afraid. I don't know why.
So I've written a book called Who Killed Epstein, and we interviewed a lot of people, including Ryan Dawson, Whitney Webb, and they've been researching this for years. I mean, Ryan Dawson was for decades, and it all traced back to a complex intelligence agency network involving the Mossad in cooperation with the CIA, hand-me-down business from, Captain Bob, Robert Maxwell, Glenn's dad, and how Jeffrey was brought in before the mainstream media said, she was mourning her dead dad and went out there and met Jeffrey. But according to Ari Ben-Menashe, who worked for Israeli intelligence, who we interviewed also, he said that Captain Bob brought Jeffrey in and introduced them before Glenn went to America. So, yeah, there's a lot more than the mainstream media is portraying.
And also, when he was a teacher or at one of the most exclusive schools here, the Dalton School here in New York. And who was responsible for that? Robert Barr's father, Bob Barr, the former Attorney General. His father was, I think, headmaster or something. I'm not saying he's involved with this. But here's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We're not really serious about getting down to business. Do you remember, Sean, in the old days of the bare knuckle? Why you? Come here, you. And we would go around in circles, and nobody would hit anybody. We would just say, why you? I knew this friend of mine, this Irish fellow, who whenever he would always threaten the people, he would go like this, take his watch. He never fought anybody. He just took his jewelry off, and he scared people. He just did like this. That's what we're doing with Epstein. We're just talking about it. We're just going like this. So what do you want to talk about? The same thing we're finding. We're going to get to the bottom of, who was it today? The Daily Mail. Somebody said there were 2 shooters with JFK. It's like, are we? I give up. Are you just coming around to this? So look, if you want to get down to business, let's get down to business. Let's find out what's happening. I think, and I don't know if they're saying, here's the list of who was involved. And the thing that I find interesting, now to show you how Machiavellian I am. If I was President Trump, I'm saying, I'm not going to give anybody up. I want that list too. I want to use them. Once I say, oh, it says Sean Atwood. Well, we can't use him anymore. As opposed to, hey, Sean, listen. Do you know the story about J. Edgar Hoover years ago?
Which story? There's a lot of them.
J. Edgar Hoover was, for those, he was the director, the most dangerous man. He was the director of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He was there and kept every year. We had this mandatory retirement. He was like 105. So old he farts dust. Remember that? The guy was ancient. And they said, why aren't they getting rid of him? Why aren't they getting rid of him? What are you kidding me? And what he would do is, he was famous. He would go to your office and say, Congressman, let's say you were on the committee that was responsible for funding the FBI. I would go to you and say, Congressman, yes, may I speak with you? Yes, Director. Listen. We found out this information, but don't worry. We caught it just in time. You know about you and the duck in the otter outfit, dressed in the woodchuck outfit, squatting over a goldfish bowl? Yeah, we have these pictures. But don't worry. Nobody's going to find out. You've got friends in us. Don't worry about it. Now, by the way, about my budget for next year. Don't worry about your budget. Whatever you need, you've got it. Okay. So if I'm President Trump, why do I want to go? Why do I want to go to, let's say, Bill Gates? Not that I'm saying it, but let's just assume. Why would I want to give that up? I would say, no, Bill, I take care of it. We're not going to give this up. Who would want? I'll give up somebody you never heard of, somebody who, whatever it is. But I mean, do you really want to play this game or not? Is there, and what good do you think this is going to bring? What good is it? Let me go one step further. Today with AI, all you got to do is say, I don't know what that is. No, this is real. Oh, you say it's real, but no, this is film. Remember the days of Roswell? Remember the Roswell when they had Jesse Marcel? He held a newspaper. He had something, because it was film. You could actually read it, and you couldn't. Anyway, that's kind of what this is. So the point is, what good is this? Now, What if you said, okay, I've got this, let's say we have somebody who happened to be of us, we got to be careful how we say this. Let's say somebody who was of a particular age that would have been a problem years ago. Okay. Has she signed a deal? Yeah. What if she says, well, I'm not going to testify? Excuse me, honey, you're going to testify. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. This is a prosecution. Well, I signed a deal for whatever. Well, that's a civil deal. You signed an agreement, a release, or whatever, hold harmless or a non-disclosure agreement. We don't care about that. We're going to subpoena you. Well, I'm not going to testify. I don't remember anything. It never happened. So what are you going to do? So where's this all going? Who out there is going to say, I'll testify. I'll testify. I was 8 years old. Okay, who are you? All right. What are you going to do? Who's going to believe this? And then we get back into this story, the same thing that we talk about when we talk about Diddy and everybody else. What happened? Where were you? When was this? Who was there? Did you tell anybody? Did you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. You want to go to trial with this? You want to take on? And again, I'm not saying Bill Gates. I'm just trying to think of a name. Prince Andrew. You want to go to trial against Prince Andrew? Unless you've got something. What are you going to do? That's him. Oh, this again? We've already been through the Jeffrey thing where he doesn't sweat. I don't understand. So what I'm trying to do is, this is the most important thing in the world. Yes, go ahead and release this list, but what does it mean? That's not the issue. The issue is who hired him. How long were you working?
Let me address this one. So esoteric teachings. So Nick Bryan released the Black Book, which was Glenn's contacts. It was labeled as Epstein's Black Book, but so that was just the Black Book that Nick Bryan released, and we've had him on the channel multiple times. I've been on his. This is what could you differentiate between the Black Book and the client list, Lionel?
Who's okay? In court, somebody has to authenticate this. I've got a book right here. I got the book. I got the book right here. Right there. Here it is. Sean Atwood. See, right there. What about it? Just, there's his name. Whose name? It's Ghislaine's book. It says Sean Atwood. There's his phone. It says number. Yeah, that's my number. Likes it rough. I don't know what it is. What does this mean? Great. He's in a book. He's got a book. There you go. What? So if you have the files, bring it on. Is that your name? That's my name, all right. Yeah. I've got one. So, and you could say it's funny. And I wish somebody would say, let's say it's Mr. Jones is a prosecutor. Mr. Jones, I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, I've got a book too. I got your name in my book. What? I got a book too. What's that book? I'm not going to show you my book. He's got a book. What do these books mean? This is the point. The issue is simply this. Forget the list. Who is he? What was he doing? Who is he working with? Call Ehud Barak. Call him. Call people. Call Les Wexner. Call these folks. Who is he? What did he do? And as Jeff says, where are these recordings? If this is indeed a honeypot or an extortion room, it's not the list you're going to use somebody. It's the actual recording. And you also have to, and again, let's talk about something. Authentication. Authentication is something which in court, you either say, what is it you're showing me? What is this? This is a tape. This is what we say in court. Mr. Atwood, is this a true and accurate depiction of what occurred when it was taken? And you would say, I don't know about that. I wasn't there when it was taken, but this is what we seized. Fine. Is this a true and accurate depiction of this person with, let's say, Prince Andrew? I'm just giving a name. I don't know that. Was it adulterated? Was it altered? What was it? Is this a person? I think this, this is Jouffre. Call her. She says, that's not me. Okay, where are we going with this? Okay, so now we got the tapes. Now we got the book. And the prosecutor's thinking, what a piece of garbage I've got here. What is this case? That's not what I want to know. Who do you work for? That's what I want to know. Who cares about who's got the information? Do you know anything about? And what's interesting too is a great way to destroy the information. The great way to destroy the information or the worth of it is right now. It's worthless. We've talked about it for so much, whatever this thing was. And by the way, these days those old honeypot days are over with. Too much work. You got to get somebody in. You got to roll the tape. People are going to be able to use other perhaps electronic devices. Maybe they'll be able to plant things on you. Who's going to believe it? Who's going to believe it? Hey, Atwood, we got pictures of you with a duck. Oh, that again? Is that the best you can do? No, we've got it. Nobody's going to believe anything anymore. So what I'm saying is we want to know. The most important thing is who offed him. That's the important thing. Why? Forget the list. This is a limited hangout. It's like using this leader, this diversion. That's not what I want to know. Who is it?
So Anne wants to know, Pam Bondi told us it is on her desk.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think her response will be if she doesn't release it?
What will her response be? I don't know. I think they're going to release something. And I think they're going to have this thing called the client list. Boom. Here it is. But again, I would say to Mr. President Trump, if you've got any dirt, don't let it out. Use it. What are you doing? I've got people. You know who this guy is? Who? I don't know. He's just from Honduras. Who? I don't even know. I'm just using name. That's what I would want to know. But most importantly, what happened to him? That's the issue. That's the issue. Only we can miss the most important part. How do you off somebody in a federal prison, a federal jail? How do you do this? Like that. Bring in the forensics. Everybody likes forensics, right? CSI and that sort of stuff. Don't you like? That's the good stuff. See, I love that. Give me things. I remember if we're doing like a DUI or a drink driving, as you would say, give me a blood alcohol number. Forget the other stuff. Give me a 0.9. Oh my God. Bring somebody in who say, let's explain this to you. Here's his picture, folks. Wow. Most people have never seen a picture. It's very interesting. And we have this rule called 403 evidence, where you have to show that evidence that is relevant cannot be used if it's tending to mislead or shock or whatever it is. It's if its probative value is out. Oh, wait. Okay. So you have the picture and we have the deep rivet, the deep cuts into us. And then you show the cloth and said, this cloth could not have, look at it, tear, could not have done this. This was like, then we talk about the hyoid bone, this thing right here just look under your chin, drop it under your mandible, all the way in the back. It's the only bone that's not connected to anything, all the way in the back. And it's when the only way it's crushed is either if ever there's strangulation, asphyxiation, anterior to posterior like this, or maybe if you're playing football or rugby and you got a clothesline or something like that. Very rare. It affects the way your tongue is. Anyway, it's there. Shattered. Here it is. You don't get that by just hanging. You don't get this. Then the thyroid cartilage right next to it, shattered. Same thing. Then you look at the eyes, petechial hemorrhaging from the pressure, and the little sclera, the little hemorrhagic burst. And then lividity, the livor mortis. When you stop breathing, your heart starts pumping, the blood pools. Oh, you've got all this stuff. And you can say, this ain't somebody who decides to say goodbye, cruel world in his cell. Not only that, he was so big, You couldn't have even supported. Anyway, that's what I want to know. Because the official rule to this day, stated by Bill Barr, rather, the son of the old headmaster, the ex-attorney general, Pam Bondi's sort of predecessor, he said it was self-dispatch. And there's no way. Once we get to that, so that we'll get to the list later. I want everybody to understand. He was taken out. Who did it? Why? Keep going.
You got a question?
Yes.
From Anne. Do you think Patel and Bondi will look into what you are saying, Lionel, how he was unalived?
Well, I think that the first thing they have to do is to always act in a way that is consistent with and commensurate with what President Trump views. Remember, he works for them. Now, what I have no problem, what I would do is I'd say, here is the file. Let me just release it. Here it is. Do what you want. We know the number. We know the name. Here it is. What do you think? Let the sleuths get to the bottom. You see, the people, the crowdsource folks, are the best ever. Let the internet folks, here it is, folks, have a big, like, WikiLeaks drop. Here it is. Here it is, folks. Have at it. What do you think? And then let them, like a rats going after this thing, just feeding on this. Let them see this. Now, what happens when President Trump picks up the phone and says, Donald, yes, blank. You're not going to let that loose, are you? Yes, we are. He's going to get a lot of people saying, and guess who would be calling him saying, I don't want you to let that out. Well, why not? You know why not. Oh, now you're pretending like we're supposed to. We know what happened. Everybody knows what happened. So anyway, so it's great. So what Pam Bondi should do is, what I would do is say, here it is. Everybody clear it for declassified. Dump it. There it is. Same thing with the JFK files. You want to see the files? Here they are. It's 60 whatever years ago. Go ahead. Have at it. Have at it. Go through 50, 100,000 files. Go ahead and do it. And people will love it.
Got a question from Bailey. Mm-hmm. Will there be a federal investigation if all these tapes and lists are found?
I would think so, but it could get very, very embarrassing. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? Call who? Les Wexner? Ehud Barak? Bring him in? Oh, God. I mean, you want to go ahead. But listen, all you folks were there. You didn't seem to care about this. Didn't bother you. So I'm sure you got to, you were nothing to do. There was nothing wrong with it. There were people who were there. You got nothing to hide. How can, you know what's funny, Sean? You got to ask yourself, how can people who were supposedly so smart be so stupid? Let me just explain something to you. Let's assume you're Prince Andrew. I'm going to say to you, listen, I got an MI6 here. Now, I know you probably know this, but I'm going to say, don't ever say I didn't tell you. Are you out of your flipping mind going with this guy? Do you know who he is? He's being watched by everyone. He's probably, but every time you walk in, do you understand what you're doing? What do you understand who you are? Do I have to remind you of what you're going with this guy? Do you remember what Prince Andrew said? He said that they said, why did you stay there? And he said, well, because, and he tried to make it sound like for purposes of travel. This is the worst. The Upper East Side, you're staying there in these little, It's the worst place to be to get to the airport or wherever it is. It doesn't make any sense. He's an idiot. He does these things without even thinking. And he just figures after a while, you've seen this, I'm Prince Andrew. I don't have to worry about this. You don't understand who I am. I've spent my life in a world getting out of one since the days of Kustark and this and that. I'm untouchable. I don't have to worry about this stuff. Mortals worry about that. I'm come on. And then one day they say, well, guess what? Things have changed. It happens all the time. I can't believe the number of people who do things on a regular basis that are just so stupid. Andrew Puberty spoken to Jeffrey after the fact. After the fact? What fact? You're like a post-mortem seance?
After he'd been convicted, I think that means.
Well, here is the thing. You've got to really ask the question. How much did he end up paying? He paid something or whatever it was. I'm not sure what the story was, but you've got to ask yourself the question. When these people, I don't understand this, why anybody would want to go, again, he most probably was told by MI5, 6, whoever it was, don't go there. Listen, if you want such and such, I promise you, we can arrange for that. People who don't know who you are, people who, whatever it is, if you're insistent upon this, we will take care of this. We'll be your alibi. We'll do it in-house. Nobody would, you would think that's the way most people would do. But these people figure, no, Sean, you don't understand. I don't worry about that. There he is walking in Central Park and they're walking together. And here's the best part too. Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, once Ghislaine Maxwell is done, she served her time, and they can't, try her for this again. She ended up being found guilty of basically nothing. And they most probably said it will be a very good idea for you to do your time. It's not going to be very big. Your family will be protected. And then when you get done, well, something. Here's a little slip of paper. You like Bitcoin? Good. Here's a number for you. Write this down. Here you go. You're okay. Because that's the one too. You really need to sit down and ask these people under some form of grand jury or something, if any of these people can even speak, if they are not privileged, if any of them can say anything. But the issue is not, yet again, the list. The list is unimportant. It's a name. And they say, I don't know. Of course I knew him. By the way, do you know how many people? Yeah, 2.7 million.
That's the Queen. That's just Queen Elizabeth's contribution was $2 million or $2.7 million. But the total was $12 million to Prince Andrew's settlement, partially paid by the Queen, the Duchy of, and Virginia put some of it in her charity to help survivors as well.
Right. I mean, this is the again, he's off the, but going back to what's going on, do you know how often this happens? Do you know how often and how many countries and how many? I mean, this is the real story. What I want people to do, more important, is to keep going and say, let's don't stop with this. Let's talk about Hollywood. Let's talk about the music business. Let's talk about this world where human beings are treated like cattle, where they are treated like props, where they're just animals. They mean nothing. It's not just there. It's a mindset. There are people who go. There is people who travel. There is this tourism that, I mean, if you really, I'm sure you do, but sort of, but if we really understood how depraved people are, and not necessarily people who are in, monarchies and crown, but just regular people, tourism, And people, we have in this country, we had this thing, maybe you do as well. It was called unaccompanied minors. This was my favorite. They gave it a name, unaccompanied minors. Now, they were kind of accompanied, but there were people coming, there were kids coming in across the border. We didn't know who they were. They had no name. They had no birth certificate. They're from somewhere. And they, whatever they say, who, you know, their parents, what is your name? No, nobody's asking them any question. They go in and they're lost. We have a thing called CPS, Child Protective Services. There's all these names with these agencies to watch these kids. And they're never seen from again. Never. Just gone. Because they were never here. And they were unaccompanied minors. Then there were people who would come in with 2, 3, 4 kids. Who are you? These are my children. They didn't do DNA testing. They didn't care about this. They said, okay, come on in. This is nothing. Truck stops all over the country.